After a series of crises which delayed the composition of a substantive board for the Niger Delta Development Commission, President Muhammadu Buhari on November 23rd asked the Senate to confirm the appointment of his special assistant on new media, Loretta Ifeanyi-Onoche, as the chairman of the reconstituted board of the commission. Buhari's letter was read at plenary by the Senate President, Dr. Ahmed Lawan. The list also included 14 others as managing director, executive directors, and members of the board. Lawan said the president appointed Ifeanyi-Onoche from Delta State as the chairman, representing the South-South geopolitical zone on the board. He also appointed Chief Samuel Ogboku from Bayelsa State as the managing director, who would serve for 2 years in order to complete the term of his predecessor. The first protest against the list was from the Deputy President of the Senate, Senator Ovie Omoagege, who pointed that Delta State was not fully represented on the board of the NDDC as read at plenary. He explained that the NDDC Act stipulates that there should be another nominee from any state that produces the chairman. Also, a federal high court in Abuja also stopped the National Assembly from screening and confirming Ms. Loretta Onoche and Chief Samuel Ogboku. It ordered that all actions on the matter be suspended pending the determination of the suit filed by Chief Edward Ekpoko Esquire, Engineer Victor Wood, and Mr. Edward Omagbemi on behalf of the Ishakiri ethnic nationality, challenging the nomination of the duo. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss the NDDC nomination list by President Buhari is Ledum Mitee, former president, Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP. Welcome to the morning show.
Morning.
You're welcome. Good morning. All right.
Okay, Mr. Mitee, why do you think there's so much emphasis on this NDDC board? In 2021, it was the same problem. Since then, there's been no focus on the purpose of that commission itself. What we see is this perpetual wrangling over who should be chairman, who should not be a chairman, who should not be a member. This time around, we have an interesting situation whereby in Delta State, there are persons who are saying that the proposed chairman, Loretta Onoche, is not from an oil-bearing community. There is also a similar situation with regard to Mr. Charles Ogumola. Mr. Charles Ogumola is a nominee from Ondo State. And all three Ondo senators in the National Assembly are also saying, no, he's from Owo. They don't have oil in Owo. Only someone from Ilaje can be a member of the NDDC board to represent Ondo State. This definition of oil-bearing community, why is it also so elastic? Although I know they are quoting Section 112 of the NDDC Act. What's your take on all of this, confusion?
Well, Dr. Bati, the issue of NDDC, it is the purpose for which NDDC appear to have been working that is causing the controversy. NDDC have been doing a fantastically good job in not developing the Niger Delta that it's supposed to do. And it has been more or less the ATM of every ruling party, especially during election period. So what you are saying is that instead of the board or instead of NDDC becoming an interventionist agency that can help to intervene in the development of the region, it has been more of a patronage machine. So what you are saying, they are hustling for positions not to develop, but for the purposes of the party that sent them. Let's start from the beginning. Now, since this administration came in, I think there was only one time that we had something like a board. The administration had been more interested in having interim boards, and even sole administrators for an outfit that is spending billions of naira in contravention of the act setting it up. My view, and I've consistently said this, that all those contraptions called interim management board, whether it is a sole administrator, are all illegal. And at some time, they might be called to account for whatever money that they spent, because it's against the law. Happily, there's no limitation about crime. So whether it's 20 years or 50 years after now, they will be called to account. Why is the government now interested in reconstituting the board just on the eve of an election or at the twilight of their own administration? Those are the questions we should ask. There have been an earlier board nomination for an earlier board that were screened. The members were screened, but not inaugurated. What we had then was, because of the issues of corruption that we have seen even on national TV, that there are going to be a forensic audit. And as soon as that forensic audit is submitted, that is the words of the president, there will be another board. That forensic audit had been completed more than over a year ago. We didn't hear of anything about constituting of a board. So my take is that the whole idea of a board is, these are all politics, and it is all about trying to see who is going to play what role, including getting funds for the party during these elections. Otherwise, why all this problem? Coming to the issues of who constitutes a board, if you look at the law setting up that outfit, it envisaged that, like, the position, the management of the board should be constituted mainly by the members of that board should be maybe professionals, especially the MD. But now what we've been seeing are politicians, those who have been around, politically exposed persons. So instead of the board delivering on its mandate, what we hear is that it has been delivering basically the patronage to party members. And I think that is the problem. It's the bane of the Niger Delta. Those who live in the Niger Delta cannot say that they can point to something substantial or anything you can point to. I don't know what has happened now since this administration, at least, that you can say this is what the NDDC has delivered on. 90 has published several reports, the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit, that clearly stated that several of the contracts of NDDC did not exist, but money had been expended. There was the House hearing on NDDC that was a national disgrace. Nobody has been punished as a result of that. So for me, all this that is happening is also, one, to show the disdain for due process, and also the fact that there's no interest in the development of the Niger Delta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitee. Just going back to your statement around the fact that the NDDC hasn't achieved much under the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. Some would beg to differ. I'll just take a few points that have been mentioned as some of his successes with the NDCC under his administration. He's talked about the construction of 1,874 kilometers of roads, the completion of 44 electrification projects, the provision of 162 potable water facilities, and some of these are the president's achievements. I'd like you to speak to that, bearing in mind your statement that there has been no gains under this administration. And then also going back to the appointment of Mrs. Loretta Ifeanyi as the chairman of the NDDC board. What the president has said is there was a clamor for set up a board, put up an administrative system that's working. He's responded to the clamor of the people, reinstated the board, taking their names to the House, and now again the complaint is that this person is not from an oil-producing state. We don't want this person. We don't want this person. The question is, perhaps I should ask you, what do the people want? How can the president better serve Niger Deltas through the NDDC?
Well, speaking to the projects, I'm sometimes amused. I hear of 1,000 kilometers of roads. I hear of water projects. Where are those roads? Where are the water projects? And are they working now? We have seen commissioning of water projects that just last for those hours of the commissioning. Where are they? What is the sustainability? How do you give water to people, maybe a rural community? You sink a borehole. You sink a borehole that will be powered by maybe a generator that the community cannot even buy the diesel to power. Then the thing is, sometimes they even hire a generator for the day of that. I am not impressed when someone comes to tell me we have spent billions on road, we have spent hundreds of millions on water projects. Tell me where they are, and we can go there. Some years ago, when I was president of Mosul, we led a survey of what the projects that they claim against what we saw on the ground. And there's a wide gap. As I said, these are things that there are several reports, several non-governmental organizations have spoken to all this. When the people see the projects, you will know the people themselves will become your mouthpiece, not what you go and picture and show on this. Now, let's come to what do the people want? What the people want is that they want something that will atone for the environmental degradation caused by oil exploitation. They want that their livelihood that has been devastated, something for it. And how do we do that? And that was the whole idea why some of us canvassed for this sort of outfit. I was one of those who made representations that led to the formation of OMPADEC. With that one is now history, which metamorphosed into the NDDC. And from its conception, you see that NDDC was not doing what it's supposed to do. Because even the law itself, when instead of saying this outfit should develop those areas, they say that they should in fact, the key words under section 7.3 is that they must, in carrying out this function, they must be subject to the control, direction, and supervision of the president. So you made an outfit that was subordinated to what the president or the presidency decided. And that is what has been there. So instead of the people, in contradiction to this, it was the administration of Abdul Salami Abubakar that made a law that was for the unpadded decree under him, said that they were charged with the responsibility of developing the Niger Delta, the oil producing communities, according to the priorities set by those communities. That is what people want. They have their priorities. They know what they want. They know what should be development. And we are not reaching them. They are scratching where sometimes it's not it. So these are the problems. So what the people want and what those people think they can have as some political billboards do not align most of the times. Okay. When it comes to the appointment of persons, I think that they should be sensitive to the yearnings of those who are actually from those communities. I'm one of those who will always align with that sort of view.
Okay.
I understand we'll have to go to a break. Okay, Doctor, take over that.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, the conversation with Ledum Mitee will continue. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still Ledum Mitee, former president of the Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People. Thank you very much, Mr. Mitee, for staying with us. Rufai, you were engaging him before to that break.
Okay, Dr. Abati, thank you so much. Two things. Number one will be, it's not only about Loretta Onoche. There's another case raging now in Ondo State as regards Ilaje and somebody from Owo. What's your take on that? Because we've seen a pattern that people that are not from the oil-bearing or producing communities are getting the top jobs at NDDC. Secondly, I'd like to talk to you about various chapters in this NDDC debacle. It looks as though Nigerians have selective amnesia, and quickly we've forgotten the days of Professor Ponde and the fainting spell. Nothing has happened since then. What ended the case was off your mic, off your mic. How long are we going to off our mics for? Those are my two questions, sir.
Well, thank you, Rufai, on this matter. The issue of the reason why communities from the oil-producing areas insist on their own, that their people should constitute the board, is because once, from what people have seen, those who constitute the board, when it comes to contracts, it comes to even accessibility, those who are directly affected by oil exploitation, most of them from those areas are not as politically exposed as those from other areas. And so those people dish out because of the patronage mechanism that this board or that NDDC has become. They do not look at those who are actually producing oil. So they face some other areas. And if this agency was supposed to deal with the issue of oil exploitation and the development in those areas, then the people have some legitimate right to ask that at least even the sense of inclusion should be able to respond to the fact that they come from those areas. I feel that most times those people have been ignored, and even in terms of what you call, if they say the projects, you do not see in those areas that should be the prime beneficiary of those areas. So there is something out there that we should speak to. Coming to the bigger issue, which you have said, it is because of the level of corruption in NDDC that is making people jostle for those positions. I can tell you some of personal experiences I have had. And it's so, and the first was that I went to see some member who was a chairman of NDDC. And I tried to make a case about what I thought this NDDC should do. And he looked at me and said, look, Ledum, I was sent here to empower the president's supporters in the Niger Delta. If you have someone that meets that criteria, please let me know. And I just I left. That was the end of the conversation. So all through, what we have seen is that the outfit has just been to empower the presidency's supporters in the Niger Delta. it has been to fund elections. And I have seen cases where people had been even arrested. I can tell you a particular case where someone came to me and said, look, I am being arrested. I want you to defend me. And I said, what is going on? I'm arrested because of some money that passed through my desk. That money was supposed to be for an election. And that is how it went. So someone wrote a petition that we did not use the money for the projects that we said we did. And the EFCC picked him up. And by the time they took him to Abuja, he was there when the EFCC chairman called him and said, who is that person from NDDC? He said, myself. He said, go to Port Harcourt and get your bail. And he flew back because he has told the politicians who actually were the real beneficiaries of that money. By the time he got to Port Harcourt, they asked him to sign his bail bond on personal recognition. And by the time he finished, he felt this was too good to be true. And he put hand in his pocket and gave the officials about 100,000 that was in his pocket for recharge card. And the officials now said they should arrest him for trying to bribe a public officer. After you have given big money in Abuja, you come here and give us 100,000. And they threatened to take him to court. But a phone call, again, that was the end of the case. So it is mind-boggling when you know what happens in that outfit called NDDC. And the fact that there was a forensic audit that no one is hearing about, even before the forensic audit, as I said, Mitee had issued several reports saying that several projects do not exist. As you rightly stated, during that hearing in the National Assembly, we were all shocked how much they said they spent for international travel during the time that the whole world was locked down. No international travels anywhere. But all that had gone. No one is talking about it. It's like that is the end of the situation. If we do not deal with the issue of impunity, if we don't deal with the issue of accountability, if we do not think that these are public money and that some people's lives are being wasted each day because of what people are stealing, then we are just on a precipice waiting for the fall. And I think that this government came in, one of their strongest points, while several people voted, was that we'll handle issue of corruption. And to now have in the hands of the president a forensic report that, at least by press accounts, indicted several persons about what has happened, it will become, it is the saddest thing that can happen to that. And that's why some of us are amused when the people talk about anti-corruption in this area. Because I have consistently said, it is not the laws that are in the books. It is the implementation of the laws that are important. No one knows that in the ICPC Act, that we have provisions that of independent investigators, just like we have in the US, so that even someone who says, I'm a governor today, or I'm a president today, we have that same provision that that person can be investigated by independent investigators. And that the charge, the immunity you have, will now, they might not take you to court while you are still enjoying that, but they can prosecute you when you leave office. How many persons have ICPC appointed as independent investigators? We've seen that happen in the US and several other cases. We have that in the books. But what have we done? It is what you do with the laws that we have in your books that makes a difference. If you go to a country where the law says thou shalt not steal, and every person is stealing, it means that that country's law actually says steal. But if you go to a country that if 10 people steal, the likelihood is that at least 7 of them will go to jail. Then the law says every person will know that that place, they do not tolerate stealing, and people will behave. That's what we are seeing. And it's a sad thing that these are some of the things some of us put our lives on the line for. Campaigning that the lives of our people have been degraded. Our lives of the means of livelihood had completely been devastated as a result of bad practices in oil exploitation. Today, we are seeing that the situation is getting worse. The money that is supposed to be used are used for some other things. I mean, look at what you show in the screen. Look at the edifice. Why do you need all that sort of edifice as an office? How many people have houses? There are communities in the Niger Delta that they don't even, they have not seen a car in their lives. They've not seen anything. And they are looking for water, even water to drink. They cannot have it. But yet, you see how much is being spent through this outfit called NDDC. And to now come to the issue of the board, why is it that even the first line of trying to bring some sanity, which is the board that should oversee, why is it not happening? We have the board of the Northeast Development Commission. It has always existed. There is no interim administration there. There is no time that they have said a sole administrator should be there. It's working. And yet, when it comes to the Niger Delta, that is what we will see. You now have an NDDC, you have a Niger Delta Ministry that no one knows exactly what they are doing. It's a shame, and it pains me to my heart that I have been one of those who campaign for what is going on. I mean, for the outfit to be created.
Okay, well, you campaign for the outfit to be created, but we've seen over the years how there's so much crisis, there's so much internal fighting, even among the people that the same commission is supposed to serve. Will you recommend, so that there will be peace, that the NDDC should be scrapped and people can go and find other means of patronage and livelihood? Will you agree to that?
Well, I will not say the NDDC should be scrapped, but as it is now, that one is not serving any purpose. We need to get maybe an NDDC or whatever name that will be focused on the development of the areas according to the priorities set by those communities, and does not take rocket science to achieve that. As I said, Abdul Salami's law created that outfit. That we can also do away with the whole of the bureaucracy, or at least a sizable part of it, and create a fund that people can access, professionals can access. So people will say, this is what we need for this period. And there will be a needs assessment. And it will be from community to community. What is development in one community might not be the same. And they access the funds, and they are monitored by professionals, and that can work. You don't need most of these large patronage staff that you have all over the place. I don't know whether any person has asked them how many staff they have in that place and how much do they get. They are paid at the rate of the oil companies, which means they are not producing, but they are earning as much as someone who is producing oil. So what is it that it does? And you have to deal with people who are living far, far below the poverty line. And then you are getting almost all the things. Let's ask, why is it that almost all the people who are there go to contest election? One good thing about when President Jonathan was there, one thing he insisted was that in appointment of people there, it should not be those who are likely to have political ambition soon. So that at least some idea will of this in, although politicians will also intervene in it. But I believe that it has been too much politicized, to the extent that it is of no more use to the people as presently constituted. We can do better than this, and we can do something that will make some difference in the lives of the people.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mitee. Just to confirm, you mentioned was under the Abdulsalami government, was actually created on the 5th of June 2000 under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, that's the NDDC. Now, talking about the NDDC, and it's been scrapped as Dr. Bati had asked, I'd like to ask a further question to that. Now, in your submission, you're not of the opinion, at least you haven't said it, that the NDDC should be scrapped. You're just saying that it should be fit for purpose. So the reason why for the development of the oil-producing areas, particularly the Niger Delta, if there were to be a reconstitution, as some agitators have said, scrapping is not even on the table. Let's not even have that conversation yet. However, there's still cases of corruption, and the money intended for the people, as you have even said in the course of this interview, hasn't reached the people of the Niger Delta. They're still languishing in poverty. They're still underdeveloped areas. So 20 years after it was set up, there hasn't been measurable improvements, at least considerable improvements to the lives of the Niger Delta people. How else should this be administered? Be administered? Because it's the same, it's the Niger Delta people who make up the commission. It's the people so it's not the president now, it's those who have been given the responsibility to administer and to ensure that the people are looked after, that are the perpetuators of the corruption. So how else should NDDC run that would make it more efficient for the people?
Well, let me say, when I said Abdulsalami Abubakar, under his tenure, there was an unpardoned decree of 1998, which clearly provided that the outfit should be responsible for the development of the oil-producing communities according to the priorities set by those communities. Clearly, that is what it said. It didn't say that the outfit should be under the control, direction, and supervision of the president. That's the difference. So when we take I'm not one of those who will give an excuse to a president that, look, it's the people he set there. The buck stops somewhere, and we know where that is. And again, the law setting up the NDDC clearly stated, Section 7.3 says that in carrying out its functions, they will be under the control, direction, and supervision of the president. So anything that happens there, I am right to assume that it was under the control, direction, and supervision of the president. So I'm not excusing him from this. So let us be very clear. But coming to what I think should be the outfit. Now, I headed the Niger Delta Technical Committee, which was a committee set up by President Yar'Adua about what do we do to deal with this Niger Delta crisis then. We submitted a report. That report has been hailed as one report that, if implemented, stands a chance of dealing with the issues of the Niger Delta. And we dealt with what role should NDDC play vis-a-vis the Niger Delta Ministry. And we thought that to be an intervention agency, what you need for an NDDC is that we must be able to say that they are going to be responsible for the development of the communities according to priorities set by those communities. And you can create an outfit that is not bogged down by so much bureaucracy, that what it does is that it's like a fund that is being administered. So communities will go by application every year. This is what we think. And then there'll be a needs assessment. And those things will now be funded. They draw from that fund. So you don't need so much of happening. Let me say again that when we started, you see there was OMPADEC, Oil Mineral Producing Communities Development Commission. Now, That one did not pretend it to what it wanted to do. It was for the oil-producing communities. Now, when Obasanjo came, there was the issue in the Niger Delta, and he tried, therefore, to pamper to international pressure, in my view, and created an outfit. Instead of doing the UNPADEC, you now call it Niger Delta Development Commission. By the definition of Niger Delta in the law, anywhere that oil is produced automatically became Niger Delta. So as you see now, Bauchi will soon be Niger Delta. So, and that is not the issue. The Niger Delta has its own peculiar problems, which started even before independence. The issues were that the terrain were such that you required some affirmative action in order to bring it to par with the rest of the country. And that those in the hinterland do not understand these peculiarities, because there are areas that you need to even build land before you can build roads, or because you can do that. These were the peculiar problems of the Niger Delta. Now, oil now found itself inside there, and then with its own peculiar problems. So what you see in the situation now is that it's like someone has malaria, he now has typhoid. Then you decide to be treating only the situation of malaria, leaving typhoid. So what we see is that there are two problems that are always treated as one. In fact, in this case, they are not even treating the malaria. They are treating it with some fake medicine that has no relationship, which is fraud. So no one has dealt with those issues of the Niger Delta. So it's like someone who is we are just dealing with the symptoms. So we have not even dealt with those issues. And we need that intervention that peculiarly deals with, one, those issues of development because of the terrain, the peculiar terrain of the area, and then the issues associated with oil. And these are things that you must look at. For instance, if there is a place where a woman has a farm that has been polluted and it cannot farm, if you give now roads in her local government, it does not deal with the needs of that woman. So you must look at those peculiar issues that needs to be addressed. Okay. Not to just go there and you go and build a police barracks in Port Harcourt and you say NDDC intervention. What has that got to do with the Niger Delta?
Okay, real quickly. This issue of the Niger Delta, and I would like to trace it back. The first time that the idea of a Niger Delta Commission was mentioned was in the '63 Constitution. Prior to that time, we had the Willings Report of the late 50s that talked about rights of the minorities. And recommendations were made based on the rights of the minorities. If the colonial government foresaw this problem then, is it not the problems that were enunciated in the Willings Report that is still happening today, that some groups feel bigger than others as regards resource in these areas? So if we've been dealing with this since '57, then where are we going? Because this is over. This even predates Nigeria as a country. Then what is the future of the Niger Delta in the next 60 years?
Well, as you rightly said, the issues of the Niger Delta were one of the issues that Willings Commission dealt with. One important recommendation of the Willings Commission was that the peoples of the Niger Delta should not be suppressed to such extent that they will revolt and troops will be used to quell the rebellion, that it will threaten the stability of the country. That's what Willings said. And some years ago, when I had the opportunity or the privilege of meeting Willings, and he explained what he meant by all these things. And I will tell you that clearly that it was always known that we have these problems in the Niger Delta. But we are still at this situation where we are going back as if we want to reinvent the wheels. I think it is a very sad commentary on this government. Every government in the world is tested not by how much you are able to deal with the strong, but how you relate to those people who are downtrodden, like in those situations. As I said, I headed a technical committee on the Niger Delta. I still stand by most of the recommendations in that report, and I still believe that apart from those that need to be modified to present day, they still constitute a very good foundation to respond to the issues of the Niger Delta. And I believe that governments must be able to deal with it and align the needs of the people to what they are doing. Most times, we are going after elephant projects, and it is not what the people want. Those people have their own needs and their priorities. And that is what is happening. When you see the issues that threaten the stability of Great Britain, which was Northern Ireland, the Good Friday Agreement, yes, the Good Friday Agreement dealt with it in a manner that up till today, they are focused on it, and it has led to reasonable stability in that area. That's how governments do. That's how they respond to when there are issues. Not to think that all you need to do is that any person that can marshal more violence, you try to appease that person.
Mitee,
So you create a new one.
Well, Mr. Mitee, well, I mean, very tough subject, isn't it? Because as we speak,
Absolutely.
people in Ondo State are protesting, some of them in support of Mr. Ogunmola. In Niger Delta, you also have Onoche's supporters. Both groups say if their persons are not on that board, there will be serious trouble. But in any case, we don't have enough time anymore. We need to go. Thank you very much for joining us on The Morning Show.